Two guys in their early 50s with one dream: to achieve middle-aged sporting glory. This is the Missing Links Golf Show. Welcome back, Andy Walker once again, and I've got to say, I don't believe that middle-aged sporting glory has ever felt further away.
Yeah, it's sort of a bit like that, isn't it? It's like life's a roller coaster. There are the ups and the downs, and those glass ceilings, and hopefully not too many glass floors. But
You'd hope not. The ups and the downs, the twists, the turns, the inversions, the loops, all of the above. I don't know. Pilgrims, we're in a bit of a reflections phase at the moment, just sort of sitting here wondering what's going on, where to next, what do we need to do to continue this pilgrimage of golf improvement, which feels like it feels at the moment, I think, for both of us, for various reasons, like it may have stalled just ever so slightly. I don't think we'd be alone with those feelings as well, to be perfectly honest.
No. And to be honest with you, and given where we're recording this episode, so it's the 24th of June at the moment when we're recording, and we've just seen Tommy Fleetwood have a little bit of a meltdown in his quest to win his first PGA Tour event, and I think he might be sort of feeling a little bit of that glass ceiling at the moment, that he's now had a couple of cracks at winning a PGA Tour event, and he's struggling to get it done.
I think that's exactly what's happening with Tommy, to be honest. I think I think it's pretty simple to see the fact that it's not a talent shortage for him.
No,
that's preventing him from winning an event on the PGA Tour. He's won events on the DP World Tour. He's won events in most other parts of world golf. He's been a successful Ryder Cupper, but just can't get over the final hurdle with a PGA Tour win, and unfortunately a fair bit of scar tissue, I think, is starting to get built up there with Tommy.
Yeah. However, credit where credit's due with Tommy, and this is sort of theme of recent episodes, is even though he didn't get it done, and even though he was pretty gutted after the event, he still fronted the media. He still had a chat about how he was feeling and what happened. And he said he didn't really wanted to go away and, have a sook somewhere, but, stood up and did the interview. And to be honest with you, I listened to the interview, and what we've been talking about, that's exactly it. I mean, I listened to what Tommy had to say. I sort of felt his pain. I tried to understand, where he was coming from, and tried to ride the journey a little bit with him. And that's exactly what the media is there for, in my opinion, for us as fans to be able to ride that roller coaster with the players like Tommy, understand what he's going through, feel what he's going through, go through it with him. Because we feel exactly the same in different areas of life. That's part of being human. That's part of this golfing community that we're part of.
Look, that's all true. There's also a school of thought that I can't remember where I stumbled across this, but it sort of rang true at the time when I was potentially listening to it, potentially reading it. I'm not entirely sure, but the theory essentially was saying that when you have a crushing disappointment like what Tommy did when he coughed up the tournament over the closing holes, it's actually important to process the feelings before you leave the golf course to prevent a blockage, a mental blockage being formed about the event and about the golf course and about the location, and having a lot of those negative emotions still tied to that place. So that is potentially an important thing. And I think in many respects, it's helpful for Tommy to do the interview as a bit of a cathartic process of actually working through what took place, talking it through with the media, answering the questions, getting it off his chest, and not, kind of not compressing those feelings down and trying to ignore them because they're unpleasant. So it's courageous. And as you say, I think it's definitely appreciated by the fans as a window into the soul of what was going on for someone in that situation. But I actually think it could potentially be helpful as well to go through that. So, it's an interesting perspective.
Yeah, one of the things he did say is that he feels as though he's in a good spot with his game at the moment. And he said he did a lot of really good things throughout the round, and he played well for the vast majority of time. And there were just a couple little moments that he didn't take advantage of. There was a couple of putts which he didn't make, and then sort of coming down the stretch on 16 and 18, there are a couple of silly little errors that he said he didn't do too much wrong. It's just that he just made those errors at the wrong time. And what he said is that he didn't want that to disrail his season and undo everything that he's done, because he feels like he's in a good place.
Oh, and his game it really is. Like, I think you've probably got to say he'd be a chance, in any of the upcoming tournaments, and whether that includes the Open as a major or not, there's no reason why he couldn't compete. Interesting that you talk about him missing a few putts coming up the stretch, and there's been some footage that's been floating around on the internet about that final putt that he hit that missed, which cost him a chance at a playoff. And it hit something about halfway along and bobbled offline.
Yeah, right.
I'm not sure that it would have gone in otherwise, but it definitely shifted its line.
I thought he pushed it a bit, because it was sort of inside left edge, which Keegan Bradley hit, the perfect putt on the perfect line, and I felt as though Tommy, whether it was he was just aiming wrong or whatever, that his ball didn't start on the right line. And
no, I didn't think it did either, but it definitely bobbled and shifted it to the right to miss the edge of the hole.
Yeah, right.
So that was interesting, but I mean, look, it shouldn't have come to that anyway, to be honest. But
no.
I mean, I do feel like there is, and potentially that's a theme for discussion in this episode, is that concept that you talked about before of the glass ceiling, and I think that's at play for Tommy. I think there is a mental blockage coming up the stretch now, because he's missed out on a few occasions when he potentially could have claimed his first win, and I think he's now captured a stat of the most top tens without a PGA Tour victory since like 25 years or something along those lines.
Yeah, he's had a few. Yeah.
So it's 40 odd or something like that. I think the stat was like, which it's a good career. Like he's racking up some good results, just hasn't quite got the job done.
Yeah. And I can draw some parallels, and that's why I guess I've sort of talked about it in this manner, because I can see some parallels with what Tommy talked about with where you're at with your game as well, in that you're doing a lot of really, really good things. Your ball striking is significantly better than what it was 12 months ago. However, the scores just don't seem to be going in your favor. And for me, I look at Tommy and at some stage, if he keeps on his trajectory, he's got to break through that glass ceiling. And I feel as though you're in, as frustrating as what it is at the moment, I feel as though you're in that same position where if you just keep doing the work, if you keep plodding along and doing the practice that you're doing, and working on the same things, that it's got to it's got to change. That plateau has got to, end at some stage, and that glass ceiling broken. So yeah, it's an interesting analogy, and when I say that what Tommy's going through, we can feel it as fans. I see that 100% in what you're doing.
I am pretty frustrated at the moment. I won't lie. And I know you know that because we've had this conversation away from the microphones. For a few reasons, actually. There's exactly what we talk about, that I honestly feel like if today me travelled back in time to 12 months ago and had a match against 12 months ago me, I feel like I would eat him for breakfast, right?
Yep.
I think far superior golfer now than what I was then. But the scores haven't moved. And that is annoying. And it's always like there's little bits that, kind of you fix one part of your game and something else kind of goes a little bit off, whether that's putting or that's short game, whatever the case. At the moment, it's kind of a bit of both those things.
Yep.
The other part of it, though, is that coming off the back of the New South Wales Mid-Am with those 2 rounds, I had 2 flag rounds drop out as well, which were pretty good rounds from sort of 8 to 10 months ago. And that means that the handicap's bounced up to currently 9.6.
And I know you've got a couple more coming up, which I've potentially
got another one, not the next round that I play, but the following one, which is a 7.3, which is going to drop out. And if I don't replace that, there's every chance that I could bounce up over 10.
Yep. Back to double figures.
Yeah. And you kind of, like, I sit there and look at that and go, well, that just doesn't seem right. Like, for all of the effort, it just doesn't seem right.
I find that conversation to be absolutely fascinating, because here we were, or say 18 months ago, we were having the conversation that you didn't have the mindset of a single figure marker. You were stuck in this sort of, pattern of, 16 to 18. You'd then made some improvement, and you've been single figures now for, about that 18 months, getting used to that idea and the understanding of and feeling as though in yourself, yes, I'm a single figure handicapper. But now you're in danger of moving back into double figures, going, that's just not me.
I know.
So
I
even that
Yeah.
mindset shift
Yeah.
says a lot.
That is interesting, actually. I hadn't really looked at it through that lens. And you're right. And here's the funniest part is that I go, if I blew out to like 10.1 or 10.2 and, turned up at the next monthly medal, I'd feel like a burglar. It's pretty funny.
Yeah. So, it's an interesting.
That's good.
Yeah, it is. I find, and we've talked about mindset a lot, but that mindset shift, I think is really critical in your growth path. Yes, you're hitting the ball better, and your swing is significantly better than what it was 12 months ago. But your mindset as well has just, has improved dramatically.
I actually think that is due to playing, even though it's only been 2 tournaments, the country championships and the Mid-Am, I attribute a lot of that to that, like being able to get into those events and go and in particular with the Mid-Am, like when I went there and, I didn't have my best golf, that's fine. But I managed to get the ball around the course relatively well and still sort of shooting them in the mid-80s at least. In tournament conditions, it's not terrible golf. But what was more important is that the other guys that were sort of that similar level, handicap-wise, and there were plenty of them in that tournament, I legitimately felt like I was capable of playing as good, if not better golf than those guys. So that really solidified that self-perception piece around being that level of golfer. The challenge though, and this is where the glass ceiling thing is an interesting one, and kind of just I've been reflecting on that a little bit over the last couple of weeks, is that the difference between accepting that at high single figures to then saying, well, do I see myself at 7, 6, 5, 4, those sorts of levels, which realistically is what needs to happen. That's
well. Apparently, to get into the senior amateur now, you need to
be down
in that level. Yeah,
I know. And that's where I want to get to anyway. Well, even I want to get down to as close to, if not scratch. Ultimately, that would be a fantastic sort of golf career goal. But that self-perception, obviously, that's a long way away, and I'm not there. And I have, wondered from time to time about where the potential lies. Have I seen it? Is there more improvement to come? Because I've never had a lower handicap than 8. So I know I can get to that point. Can I get to 7? Can I get to 6? I don't know. It's obviously going to try and do everything possible to try and get there. But, it's one thing if you know that you've done it before, that it's there and you've just got to get to that best. But when you're setting personal bests at this phase of life, where is that level? And that's that, that's the, whatever you want to call it, glass ceiling, invisible cap, limiting beliefs, I know. But I guess that's sort of the thing that's been floating around for a little while now.
Yeah. Well, what I will say though, knowing that where you've been and where your mindset's been when you were sort of 16 to 18, having now made that transition to believing that you truly are a single figure handicapper, right? You've made that transition. So I see the next transition from 8 down to, mid single figures is probably the next big or the glass ceiling, certainly from a mindset perspective that you need to take. From about 4 down to scratch is also really difficult. That's where I, long time ago, I had a glass ceiling where my first handicap was 20. I went from 20 to 7 pretty quickly. I stayed on 7 for about 12 months. Then I went from 7 to 4 very quickly. Then I stayed on 4 for best part of 12 months. And then I went from 4 down to scratch. So that was sort of my plateaus, my glass ceilings. And I feel as though that's going to be fairly similar to where you go, because even though 4 shots doesn't seem that much, when you're getting to certainly down to single figures, 4 shots is a lot. It's sort of, 18, 20, 4 shots. Yeah, it's a lot, but it's not really that much.
It's really not. But the difference with that though is that, like, if you're, say you're a easier maths 22 trying to get to 18, it's 4 shots, you can probably do that with just some better decision making and some eradicating mistakes. If you're trying to get from 4 to scratch, you're not doing that with, low hanging fruit. You're doing that with like that requires really, really good golf. It actually requires really, really good golf just to maintain that 4 level.
Yes. Yeah, it does.
Regardless of trying to get that down to scratch. So look, I guess at the moment, the frustration has been building with the not moving forward, but in fact sort of creeping backwards a little bit. And I understand the fluctuations of, handicaps are going to move up and down a little bit as scores go in and scores come out. That's fine. Over the longer term, it balances out. But it's also just been around the age-old challenge of balancing all of the, the issues that we've got going on with work and family and time. And winter is harder because it's not daylight savings. There isn't time after work to get out and practice and do the things that I want to do to move the game forward. So I kind of feel just like in this little bit of holding pattern, which is not where I want to be right now.
Yeah. Yeah. So we did a few months back, we did talk about how you can practice when it's raining. and when the weather's not great outside. So that also can be applied in winter as well when it's dark outside and you can't sort of get out there. So, we talked about, the techniques of, practicing, say, in the mirror, and practicing specific movements and specific positions that you can get into throughout your swing. We also talked about, using your putting mat for putting technique. Have you thought about?
I've been doing these things. I've been absolutely doing these things, and been putting, been using the high performance center, it is better than nothing. Absolutely, it isn't the same as being able to get out and play golf regularly.
Yeah, it's never going to be,
and it isn't. And what it also doesn't necessarily do is give you the ability to test your improvement and see where you're at, and actually if it is making a difference, because I think you can only do that through playing rounds, rather than even getting on the range or, practice short game area. That's one thing. And this is a funny thing as well. Like I can go on the practice area, the short game area, and chip everything really close and then get into the round and struggle.
Yep.
And that's, I think, a combination of things. It's obviously there's a mental element to that. It's also because you're being provided with new challenges in different environments with different greens that you've got to see it and judge it and make decisions for what it is on the fly. And you're not just hitting wedges over and over and over because you've hit a driver, then an iron, and then you're hitting a wedge, and then you've got a putt, and all of those things with the different types of practice that we've talked about as well. But translating gains from the practice arena into the onto the course, into rounds, certain things have worked really well, particularly some of the changes with setup for driver and some of those types of things that I've done have actually just like flow through really, really easily. The short game stuff, not so much. So that's kind of interesting. I do feel like I'm on a bit of a positive trajectory there, though, with kind of changing some of the technique elements that I think were holding me back, and in particular that's to do with weight distribution. But I just haven't had enough time to do it enough to groove it in to really see if it's working or not.
Yeah, and the difficult part of especially chipping and pitching, it's one thing to practice full swings into a net, or to practice full swings in a mirror, and practice movements and positions. Putting as well. You can practice on a putting mat, and you can simulate fairly closely what you're going to experience on a green, but chipping and pitching is very, very different. I don't feel as though you can simulate that very well in a certainly not off a hitting mat into a net.
No,
I think you can practice distance control and technique, but to actually get the feel of what you need in your short game, and certainly bunker shots, you can't practice bunker shots in a simulated.
What about that little bunker thingy though with the blue legs? Remember I showed you that thing?
Yeah. You could invest in something like that. I'm not convinced that will really be that.
I can't imagine it would be of any use at all. But anyway,
no. But that feel that you get around the green from feeling the club head interact with the turf, and
that's the critical bit. Like that's the bit.
I don't think you can simulate that at home in a simulated environment. I think you've got to be out there either around a pitching or chipping green or on the golf course. I struggle to believe, and I've certainly never been able to recreate that experience and that feeling that you get on a golf course in a simulated environment.
Yeah, I really don't think you can, and that's kind of a bit of the struggle. And I almost feel at the moment like I've got to rein in the expectations of what I think I can achieve during the winter months until daylight savings rolls around again.
Yep.
in a lot of respects. And it's almost sort of moving towards that Northern Hemisphere on-season, off-season kind of scenario. Like, yes, we can play golf all year round within reason. And certainly in the part of the world that I'm in, we feel the winters more so than what you do. You only have to look as far as that photo that I posted on the socials a week or so ago with the snow in the front yard. Like, that's cold.
I do not get snow.
No. We might get more tomorrow, actually. But it definitely curtails the ability to get out and do the things that I want to do to progress my game. But that's just life, right? Like,
and I think that's part of it is there needs to be, we talk about acceptance on the golf course. I think there's got to be an element of acceptance on what you can and can't do in life, especially with golf, and one of those pieces that certainly during winter that you're struggling to fit in is your short game. But I do think that there's plenty of other areas of your game that you can improve. And then as soon as daylight saving hits and the warm months hit, that's when you really focus on your short game. And, I'm not saying forget about the other parts of your game, but they sort of more go into a maintenance mode, whereas the gains, can happen over the next few months. And as soon as the warmer months hit, that's when you go, you know what, this is my time to really get my short game into gear and make that a focus. And you could plan that out now. You could plan that change of season and the change in the change in your golf practice plan now, so that you know what's coming up and you know what that improvement journey looks like.
Well, I think that's what needs to happen. To be honest with you, I've got to the point now where I think I will continue to work on, my ball striking, probably as much as anything. Driver-wise is more maintenance than anything else. I don't think I need to change much there. I'm really happy with how that's been going, but more importantly, how I can, if it's a little bit off at the start of the round, I've been able to actually get it back on track during a round in the last sort of 4 or 5 rounds. I would never have been able to do that 12 months ago, right? Like, if I got up and sprayed the first 2 drives, I kind of just would have been hoping on the tee box. Whereas now I've got a real feel for my driver swing, and the longer end of the bag. I feel really confident with that. That's good. There's still a little bit of improvement that I want to work on with irons and the striking of irons. I mean, you saw that in the Macquarie Cup. I actually think it's improved from there. And I was working on something in the High Performance Centre this afternoon, actually the last couple of days, which I'm going to ask you about in a minute just to get your opinion on. But that's felt really good, and I think that might be a bit of a way forward with irons. So that's all really good. Where I genuinely think I could move, and I reckon I could move about 4, probably comfortably 4 shots around on this, is short game. I have been really poor, particularly chipping and pitching, for a few years now, if not longer, probably always. I'm totally happy with my bunker game, but it's off the grass, around the greens, and sort of within within sort of 30 meters of the green. Really, like it's that that short range stuff where I just haven't been getting the ball close enough, and I've been just almost yippy on certain times, certain days. I just think that there's definitely, because if you're hitting, I'm probably hitting 10 greens, maybe 9-10 greens around. Like that's a lot of opportunities for getting up and down there. That you can make it. And if you got half them, that's 4 or 5 shots you're improving. And I'm probably only getting 1 or 2 at the moment.
Mm. So what about because I know you're going down the sort of the rabbit hole of the tool read, because that was one of the things that we obviously identified
Mm.
in the Macquarie Cup earlier in the year, and that I think is going to, potentially for the next few months while you can't get out and practice your short game, there's an opportunity there to really focus on your putting framework, to be able to get that framework right so that that part of your game at least you're a lot more confident with, and you've got your green reading framework in place so that you really understand it and you can implement it, without really giving it too much thought.
Yes and no. So the issue here is the reading of greens, not so much the hitting of putts. It's the reading of greens.
Yeah.
Understanding the framework, sure, but the process that I actually need to go through with Tour Read, I think they've got a process which is like a 75 putt process, something like that, which you've got to do in about like sort of 3 or 4 days.
Yep.
And that's a case of seeing a variety of greens, and reading and kind of testing yourself on the reading of putts. The problem with this is I can't really do it on the practice green at the golf club because
so you've got to get out and play
around the greens around the course to see different things in those environments of the the course architecture and the way that the greens are set up, and judging which way they're going and what degrees of slope and those sorts of things. And beyond that, it's just a mathematical equation then to pick your starting line. So again, I think like that's something that I'm going to hit really hard as soon as I've got the opportunity and the days get a bit longer to get out there after work, because that's going to be like an hour after work of cruising around in the cart across a variety of greens. Having said that, I have reached out to our very good friend Ralph Bauer, who is the sort of inventor, for want of a better term, of the Tour Read product. Invited him to come on the show as a guest, because what better way to suck some knowledge out of someone than actually get them on the show and talk to us in the Pilgrims. He has indicated that he's keen to do that. At the moment, it's just a case of finding a date and time that lines up so that we can get Ralph on the show. So that'll be really interesting. I think he'll have some insight into how I can best go about it, and we can talk about the constraints and the issues that we've got to deal with. And I'm sure that he will have seen this before, and he will
for sure
tell me that I'm overthinking it and it's really not that hard, and just get out there and hit some putts.
Exactly.
So, but again, it's a time factor, right? Like it's not easy.
So then what's the plan? I mean, we're talking about, the challenges. What's the solution here? What do you feel as though, have you thought about what a solution potentially could be, or is it just all, woe is me, I can't do it at the moment?
It's a bit of
that. That's why I asked the question.
So one option, which I have been considering, has been to quit my job and just get into this full time.
Okay.
Financially, that does not necessarily look like being a great decision.
I was going to say, if you want to stay married and stay at the keep the lifestyle that you're accustomed to,
it's probably not. It's probably not the smartest
I think
decision.
you're going to struggle with that decision.
Yeah. I don't know that one's necessarily.
Thought about moving north a bit more sunlight.
Yeah, I mean, maybe. Look, I to be honest, I think it's a case of trying to just accept what I can do in the short term, and that's not everything. Work on the things that I'm able to actually work on, and the other stuff, wait until the days get a bit longer when we can get out on the course and actually do some of those things that I want to do at the moment that I just can't do. And rather than trying to focus on that and being upset about not doing it, but to actually just rein that in and focus on the things that I can do. And to be honest with you, one of the things that I can do and need to do is work on a bit of kind of physical fitness and
that was my next question.
Body stuff.
Yes. Yeah.
Is actually probably going to be some of the best work that I could do in the short term.
Well, what about meditation? How have you been going with meditation?
It's a great idea. I love the topic. I've always been an avid proponent of meditation, and it's definitely it's always been something which has been very important to me, and a big part of my life.
What for other people doing it, or
yeah, I haven't done a lot of it. The breathing exercises, though, on the contrary, I have felt have been very good. Quite enjoy doing a bit of that. I suppose that sort of touches on meditation a little bit. I don't know, meditation. Maybe we have to get back into it. Andy Walker, get some Lycra and get back into some yoga and whatnot. David McClellan style.
Yeah, not convinced that the Lycra is
no
going to happen. No, never been that comfortable in Lycra, the tights. Tweets.
No, I don't think so. But no, I mean, I think some of that just sort of physical well-being work is important. Having recently turned 50, there's things that come along with that, such as the bowel cancer test kit that comes to you in the mail.
Yep.
Be happy to know I've just I've gone through that process this week and posted that off. It's
isn't that fun?
So good. Pilgrims. I don't know what happens in your part of the world if you're not in Australia, but in Australia, when you turn 50, you get posted this kit from the government, and essentially
bowel cancer screening.
Bowel cancer screening. Essentially, you drop your poop in the toilet and you scrape a little bit off it and put it in a vial and put it in the fridge and do the same thing a couple of days later and send your samples off in the post. It's the first time in my life that I've posted my poo to someone, Andy Walker, and that was quite the moment.
How did the family react with your poo being in the fridge?
I did it in the Dubbo house when everyone else was in the Orange house, so no one else had to worry about it.
Because I didn't have that luxury, and I can tell you that it wasn't fun for the rest of my family.
No.
I opened the fridge and there it is.
And then the kids come in there and then you say, "Oh, can you just grab, the whatever condiment it may be out of the fridge?" And they come back in, "Oh, not that one."
Yeah, not ideal. Not ideal. No.
So, anyway, wow, that was a digression, wasn't it? But
it was. I'm not sure it was a great one either, but anyway, that's
we'll listen to that
happens
one.
We'll
listen to that one again.
When you turn 50.
We may edit that out. I don't know. No, actually, we'll leave it in. The pilgrims need to know. So there are there's all those sorts of things, but it's a marker in time as well, which I think makes you go, actually, you know what? We're not getting any younger. Probably, doing a little bit of fitness work, dropping a kilo or two, working on flexibility, injury prevention, might even help with a little bit of distance, all those things all the good things that come with it.
Yeah, for sure.
And that's all doable, regardless of what's happening outside, because you can do that inside the house.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree.
So, yeah, I mean, that's kind of where it's at the moment. It's a bit of a flat spot in the game. I am going to have a round of golf on Saturday coming, hopefully.
Yep.
I'm down in the comp with Donnie from Bathurst.
Oh, nice. It's actually go to Bathurst.
It's an Ambrose event.
All right. Okay.
Which I don't mind, because it's just get out there and play a bit of golf.
Yeah.
Don't worry about the score.
Yep.
Just play a bit of golf. That's probably not a bad thing, because I think I've fallen into the trap a little bit as well of getting too outcome focused on rounds. Don't think that's helpful.
Yeah. No, I understand that. And look, just to, we talked about, needing to get out in the golf course and play shots on a golf course to be able to see where you're at. I mean, that's yeah, in an Ambrose, I guess, is the perfect opportunity to get out there and hit some shots without the pressure of trying to put on a score. And then I guess you can see where you're at from from a technique perspective, but also just to maybe try a couple of things you're working
100%.
on, and talking about the weight, and where your weight is through in your short game. Well, there's good opportunity to be able to look at whereabouts your weight should be, and to focus on those areas when you get into those sorts of positions around the green.
And I mean, when you've got a lot of it, it's more important to make sure it's in the right place during the swing.
When there's excess.
Yeah, it's having more bearing on the swing than what it might have done 10 years ago.
Yeah. Yeah.
How's your weight going, Andy Walker? Are you happy with with things at the moment?
I don't know about happy. Yeah, no, there's it's going that there's the glass ceiling's not there.
You've shattered the glass ceiling.
Yeah, look,
Wow.
look, Pilgrims, I have put on a bit of weight in recent times, and I was thinking back to the Macquarie Cup last year when I was actually in really good shape, doing a fair bit of exercise. We'd only been doing the podcast for less than 6 months, and I think I was down sort of about 85 kilos and feeling pretty good about where I was at.
Let's just do the conversion on this, because got to think of the global listeners. So 85 times 2.2, 187 pounds.
Yeah,
Pilgrims.
yeah. So look, there's been some times in my life where I've been really, really fit, and for me, really, really fit with under 10% body fat is sort of in that 78 to 80 kilos. At that point in time, I'm in good shape. So for me at the moment, I don't think that's realistic. I'm in a sedentary role, with my business. I'm sitting in front of a computer screen pretty much all day. So, being when I was at that stage, I was working more in a retail environment. So for me, yeah, if I can get down into somewhere in the 82, maybe 81 kilos, that's a really good result for me. And I was on that trajectory in the Macquarie Cup last year, and I know we came out to the Macquarie Cup, and we had a few wines. We had some nice food. We enjoyed the weekend, and I sort of let it slip a little bit through the back half of last year. I felt as though I made a little bit of progress in the first part of this year, but yeah, since these injuries have taken hold, my weight has just blown out massively and
blossomed. I think we'd call it.
I know I sent you a screenshot of my weight last week. Last Friday night, I think it was, and I jumped on the scales at 96.7 kilos,
which is 212.7 pounds.
Yeah. Yeah. So I have never been, I've never pushed 100 before. I think the most I got to sort of somewhere between 94 to 95, a little while ago. But 96.7, that's a new record.
Yeah, and I mean, honestly, you're so close. You can't stop now.
No,
you're nearly there.
I don't want to be able to say I got to triple figures.
Like you may not get this opportunity again for quite some time. I think you're crazy. You're crazy not to get this opportunity, not to grasp it with both hands and just really set a personal best.
Yeah, no. I've already set a personal best
or a personal worst. As the case may be.
No, look, I mean, and we talked about the fact that we're both over 50, and I mean I'm 53 in a few months' time, and it's at that stage where if something's going to go wrong, it's going to start sort of showing, and there's going to be a sort of loss of whether it be mobility or health or something. And, you know, I want to be playing golf and competitive golf for a long time. And I just don't want to be able to I don't want to be in a position where I'm taking the chance to, you know, risk any future results or performance or, you know, game that I might have. And as you know, I've been prone to a couple of injuries over the last 12 months. So I don't want to put myself in a position where I'm more prone to, well, certainly not just injury, but sickness as well.
Far out. This is one of the most inspirational pieces of content I think that any podcast has ever put together. I'm old, I'm fat, I'm not playing enough golf.
Yeah. I mean, where are we? Like, where are we in the pilgrimage? And I actually went back, and I don't know if you remember when we first started the podcast, and we set up a Google Calendar.
We did.
And I actually jumped on the Google Calendar and just had a bit of a look as to what we'd, you know, what we'd put down, because we had the recurring calendar entries of what we were going to do. So they're still coming up. So I'm just looking at it now. They're still up there, and what I can see that we'd scheduled in and what we'd planned and what we're doing is very, very, very different.
There's a few things going on there. Firstly, we need to have a long, hard look at ourselves. That's
yeah.
Take that as a given. Secondly, there was so much that was put onto that development plan that was just completely unrealistic for living an actual life around it.
Yep.
So I think there's both sides of the spectrum on that. But I mean, look, I guess that the purpose to have this conversation though is not just an opportunity to get on the microphones and complain about, you know, woe is me and how bad stuff's going, because it's not really necessarily true. The thing with it though, and it also, there was a conversation that I had on the sidelines of schoolboy rugby on Saturday with a couple of the other dads, just talking about golf, and you know, the people that do listen to the podcast as well, and enjoy, you know, the relatability of the stuff that we talk about. And the reality of it is, it's like, it's not the highest priority of everything that you have to do in your life. You've got to earn a living. You've got to be a dad. You've got to be a husband. These things take precedence. You squeeze in a lot of these other things when you can. And the reason that we started this show in the first place was actually sharing that journey and sharing that fact that that's what we're dealing with, because so many people do, and trying to help people find a way through it. I think at times as well, it's also just releasing the pressure valve a little bit of saying that you don't have to be perfect all the time. You don't have to try and do everything spot on and stick to these sort of, you know, semi-realistic or unrealistic plans. Put one foot in front of the other and continue to take steps in the right direction and just try and do the best you can. And I think I'm talking to myself as much as I'm talking to anyone else when I say that, because it's easy to go, I'm not always moving forward, therefore I'm frustrated. That's sucking my motivation and making me want to give up. But that's when I need to not give up, because you're going to have those times. And you just need to continue to put one foot in front of the other and show up and try and do a little bit better tomorrow than what you did today.
Yep. Yeah, no, I agree with that. And you are right. I think that a lot of what we had planned to do, while I think all in good intention, when it comes to the reality of day-to-day life, I think there needs to be a level of, I don't know if flexibility is the right word, but certainly you need to be able to mold yourself to the roller coaster that is life. Yeah. And there's going to be times, and I know, and I've talked about it before, is that my business goes through a rotation every 3 months where, specifically around the lodgement of business activity statements, and the month where the business activity statement is due is a really full-on month for me. The same as, the start of the new financial year now in Australia, where our financial year starts on the 1st of July. So the first, 6-7 weeks of the financial year, there are a significant number of business lodgements that needs to happen in order for businesses to be compliant, and a lot of that is my responsibility to ensure my clients have those lodgements sorted out and done, or the Australian Tax Office has a tendency to sort of start calling and giving fines and penalties and all the rest of the stuff. So that's really important, and I need to do that obviously for my business and for my lifestyle and for my family and for the life that we live. So those challenges are always going to be there. For me, then there comes a period of time, another month, where I have a fairly quiet period after those business activity lodgements. So that's my time to be able to really, I guess, get focused on playing golf and looking after myself physically and to make the progress that I need to. The middle month is sort of somewhere in between, and then I go back into the busy month as well. So for me, it's more of a quarterly plan than a week to week proposition that I need to get my head around it and get some consistency around, which I must admit is something I've always struggled with.
Yeah, and I think you always will, because I don't think that there's an answer. It's not a perfect situation that anyone exists in. We've all got commitments, and this is why these sorts of ambitious projects are very, very difficult, because there's a lot of competing priorities and competing times, and it is a challenge. But I think, as we've been saying, just trying to chip away at things and keep the ball rolling in the right direction is important. And even though I might not necessarily have been seeing a lot of the results and a lot of the outcomes that I would want to, I have been really diligent insofar as I've been continuing to hit balls on pretty much a daily basis in the High Performance Centre. And I think that consistency of effort actually does make a massive difference with your hand-eye coordination and your consistency then when you get in around out on the golf course. And I think that's what's been driving the improvements that I have had. So that's a good thing. Just trying to find ways that are achievable of being able to do these sorts of things is always the ongoing challenge.
Well, I mean, that's obvious. The improvements you've made is in ball striking.
Yeah.
And we've talked about that a lot. So the fact that you're consistently going into the High Performance Centre and hitting balls every day and just ingraining that ball striking and the swing is indicative of why you've improved so much and why you look so good when you're standing over a ball and you hit a lot of really good shots during a round of golf. I guess from my perspective, your next stage is, well, how do I address those areas of my game that are still a weakness, a la short game, putting, and the putting framework that you need in order to get to where you want to go.
Yeah, 100%. And that is the next frontier, because I think like that's where the shots are going to come from. That's where the difference is going to come from. If I can get the level of confidence around the greens that I've currently got on the tee, like that's a game changer.
Yep.
Yeah, it really is. And that's the next stage. That's where the focus is going to have to be. It's a little bit more difficult to do because I can't just go into the garage and do that in the way that I've been able to do from a ball striking perspective. So we're going to have to figure that one out. And I think as well, that's what gives you the the quiet confidence is a phrase, where you step up. You're not hoping things go well. What's my swing going to look like today? And, how's it going to go? And a couple of holes in thinking, I've blown this round and, or whatever. It's what gives you the quiet confidence of going, I know what my game is. I know how I'm going to approach, and I know how to deal with the challenges that get thrown at me during a round of golf, and I know I'm going to be able to, achieve a number that I need to at the end of this round. And that's the difference, I think, from hovering around higher single digits to getting down into lower single digits. I'm not there yet, but that's the next frontier.
Yeah, but I think you've sort of answered your question a little bit, or more than a little bit during this conversation. Is that at the moment, you can't work on those things in your game that's going to really move the needle, but there are still, the consistency of hitting balls into the net in the high performance center every day. It's maybe doing a bit of focus on physical fitness and getting back into doing maybe a little bit of mental golf work as well. And then as the weather warms up, as the days get longer and you can get out and do some work on your short game, well, that's the opportunity to really progress your game. Whereas at the moment, there are things you're still working on, but it's more around the maintenance of keeping what you've got.
Yeah. And that's exactly right. That's exactly right. So there you go. That's my thoughts. Where are you at, Andy Walker?
Look, I actually haven't played for a while. Actually going to have my first comp game in a couple of days. And I think I mentioned last week, it's going to be my first full round completed comp round since the New South Wales Senior Amateur. So I'm excited by that. Really keen to see where my game's at. I'm not going to go out with a lot of expectation. Just going to go out and see what happens and just make an assessment on where my game's at. I've started hitting shots again and balls again in the high performance center, which is good, and it does feel a bit rusty, but I've made some upgrades in the high performance center, which we might sort of talk about those maybe next week, because there's some pretty exciting upgrades that I've had. But certainly for me, it's just laying the groundwork again. I sort of feel as though I'm coming back from. Well, I am coming back from a layoff, and it's now laying that platform and laying that groundwork that I laid fairly early on in the pilgrimage to be able to allow me to shoot some good scores sort of 12 months or so ago. I think for me, I'm starting again. I'm starting from that ground zero. I do. I'm in a similar situation to you, where I do have those good rounds sort of back in April and May last year that are dropping off my handicap index. So my handicap, unless I start shooting good scores straight away, is probably going to blow out to, well, I'm 2.3 at the moment, and it very easily could get out to 4 or potentially 5 again. So not that particularly bothers me that much. It is what it is. I guess for me, because I've recently been through that game improvement, I know what I've got to do. Right. I've got a couple of other challenges as well with the move away from. I moved sort of about 30 minutes up the road from where I was earlier in the year, and rather than being 3 minutes to my home club, I'm now about 30 minutes to my home club. That does make a little bit of a difference in that I can't just go and do some short game practice or some putting practice on the way to picking up the kids from school. So I've got I still haven't figured out what that framework looks like to be able to get out and hit some chips and putts around the chipping and putting green. In saying that, my setup in the high performance center, I was set up in my garage in my previous place, whereas now I've got a dedicated 6 by 3.5 meter ColourBond shed, which is just an awesome setup to have, and I've got a bit of a plan to move that forward and eventually have a full golf simulator set up in that area. Which, yeah, I mean that's probably a 3 to 5 year project that I've got, and that'll just be a stage by stage upgrade to that area. So the good thing is that I've got that opportunity to be able to set something up that's going to be excellent for to progress my golf, and to be able to have that facility at home is phenomenal. So yeah, as I said, I've made a couple of upgrades already, and yeah, so for me, it's just getting back into some regular practice. It's getting myself physically back into the routine of doing resistance training and some cardio to be able to get down to sort of that mid 80s, possibly even low 80s over the next sort of 6 to 12 months. I mean, that's going to take a while for me to lose that much weight, but you know, I'll get the bit between my teeth and run forward with that, because I'm pretty motivated at this stage, given I've jumped on the scales at almost 100 kegs.
Mm.
Yeah, so I'm actually, even though sort of 6 weeks ago I went through a bit of a low mentally, I'm quite positive, and I'm quite looking forward now that I feel as though I've recovered from my wrist injury, and I haven't had a recurrence of my rib cartilage injury. I feel as though I'm in a good position to be able to move forward. I just need to, get into the process of laying that groundwork again.
Bit of a rebirth, a new beginning, potentially.
Yeah, and that's exactly what it is. I've done a lot of work on my mental game over the last 6 months. I'm still doing some breath work. I'm still doing some. I wouldn't say it's meditation. It's more mindfulness. I feel as though that works better for me, and certainly, the intentional breathing. And the mindfulness breathing, and then doing a little bit of visualization around that. But that seems to be working quite well. And yeah, I'm going to continue on with that, and I feel as though that's a positive. And if there's anything that I've got out of the last 6 months, because as you know, I've been through a few challenges over the last 6 months. It's that going through that process and being able to manage levels of stress and anxiety through mindfulness and breath work has sort of been a bit of a revelation.
It's pretty cool. Well, there you go. I think that was a conversation that we needed to have.
Yep. Yeah. Oh, and the other thing before I forget as well, I've as the pilgrims would know, I've been doing some work with Paul Salter over the last sort of 6 months, and that hypnotherapy work, while it hasn't necessarily been golf focused. I thought when I first started working with Paul back in December, I thought it was going to be very golf focused, but it hasn't been, because I've been through quite a number of challenges, and Paul's aware. I was very open and honest with Paul as to where I was at. I feel as though he sort of came into my life in at a time where I really needed some skills to be able to deal with stress and anxiety in a way that I'd never dealt with stress and anxiety before, and he's given me some skills and provided some skills for me to be able to do that, and I've sort of come through the other side of it feeling as though I'm mentally stronger, and with the level of resilience that only going through adversity provides. Which has been a pretty cool thing to be able to look back and go, yeah, you know what? Things can knock me down, but I can get back up again and keep going.
Chumbawamba.
That's what I had in mind when I was saying that. Not intentionally, didn't start out intentionally thinking about that, but as the words was coming out of my mouth, that was my thoughts.
Fantastic.
Exactly.
Bit of tub thumping from the late 90s. No, that's amazing. And I mean, I think it wouldn't be a bad a bad thing potentially to get Paul back on the show for another conversation. Post some of that
absolutely.
work. Fascinating guy. A lot of really, really good information and knowledge to share. And if you haven't listened to the episode actually where we had him on as a guest, then it's worthwhile jumping onto the back catalogue and checking that out. If you're looking for another podcast to listen to, early episodes of the Missing Links Golf Show, can't recommend them highly enough. Andy Walker, that was a good conversation. I think there's quite a lot in there. It was pretty honest. I don't think we're alone feeling some of these things. I think some of the, definitely some of the pilgrims that reach out from time to time, they fight some of these battles in various ways. And, whether that's figuring out where to play your golf, golf clubs to join, how to develop plans, how to approach improvement, or even as we were talking last episode, how to embark on competitive tournaments and some of those sorts of things. There's a whole lot of different levels and layers and, challenges to these things. And we're all humans with other parts of our lives. And, juggling those together is always going to be a delicate balance. So sometimes it's easy, sometimes it's hard. Enjoy the good days, get through the bad ones.
Yep. But I think the good thing is that we're part of a community that I think is able to be open and honest and have an open and honest conversation. And you're right. We've had a number of the pilgrims reach out with their own challenges, and it's good to open up those challenges with other people, just so you're not alone going through whatever challenges you are. So. If anyone's got a challenge, if you're out there and you feel like that there's something that you can't overcome, then drop us a line. We'd be more than happy to read and respond.
Absolutely. And I am mindful of the fact that there are people out there in the world that face larger challenges than the direction that their golf handicap is travelling at a moment in time, and whether or not they're playing enough golf. So I feel somewhat privileged to be in that situation.
Oh, 100%. There's a lot of people in the world. I was actually looking only the other day at there's a democracy index.
Wow.
And I was just looking through some of the places that are categorized as whether it be dictatorships or something similar. And a fairly large part of the world, more than 50%, are under the control of some sort of dictatorship or, single government rule.
Well, there you go.
Yeah. Just puts our challenges in perspective, I think. But, nonetheless, it still feels real to us.
So, single party government, single party rule, if that's sort of the definition of autocracy.
Yeah, well, that's effectively what it is. It's a dictatorship, autocracy. There's I think there was the categories are something along the lines of that. There's full democracy, there's flawed democracy, there's a hybrid. Then it sort of goes down to the autocracies and the dictatorships under that. So there's a full model on it that I was looking at.
To check it out. Given the bloodbath at the last election, you'd have to say that Australia is verging on a single party government at the moment.
Yeah, I can't disagree with that. It's gonna take a while, I think, for the coalition to come back from what they experienced in the last election. But I'm sure that they will be back at some stage.
The important part is they're allowed to.
That is true.
Yeah.
That is true.
So anyway,
and the good thing is that Australia was defined as a full democracy. So I feel very privileged and grateful to be part of a full democracy.
Oh dear, perhaps we'll embark on a political episode one of these days.
Yeah, probably.
If we can't practice enough golf, I feel like we could always pivot to a politics-based podcast. But anyway, that's a story.
Is that really what we want to do?
No, it's not. It's absolutely not. I just want to play golf.
Yeah. Me too.
Yeah. Anyway, I think that will do us. Good chat. Thank you for the year. Thank you, Pilgrims, for listening. Any advice, please drop us a line. We'd love to hear your thoughts and even your experiences. If there's things that, as Andy says, things that you're going through that you want to talk about with the community, the Missing Links Golf Show podcast Facebook group is a pretty good place to start. Drop us a line. All the details are in the show notes, so you can find us in many different places. But we'd also like to learn from you guys too. So if you've got any words of wisdom, share them.
Absolutely. 100%.
And in the meantime, Andy Walker, what do you think would be an appropriate strategy to move forward?
Rock out, Pilgrims.
Thanks for listening to us today. We love hearing from our pilgrims, so please reach out to us through any of the links in the show notes. We know golf is hard, so we hope we can help you shoot better scores and inspire you to keep trying. Rock on, Pilgrims.